I'll be teaching you Oracle ADF. Oracle ADF is basically a part of Fusion middleware. ADF. Oracle ADF stands for Applications. ADF stands for Applications Development Framework, and it's part of Fusion middleware, and through which we can develop mobile applications, either desktop based. We can develop using ADF. We can develop either desktop applications or web based applications or mobile applications. Everything is possible using Oracle ADF, and it's a pure MVC based. It's purely based on MVC based architecture. MVC stands for Model, View, and Controller. ADF is purely MVC based architecture, and here we will be supporting all the existing technologies which are available in the market. Like in model side, ADF supports EJBs, and ADF has their own components called as Oracle BC4J, which we usually use in the model side. BC4J stands for Business Components for Java. They are similar to our DAO classes, and on the view side we support JSP and JSF. Also, ADF supports, or Oracle ADF has their own UI components called as ADF Oracle ADF bases. So using these components, we will be developing view components. And similarly, on the controller side, we can have struts, or we can have our own ADF controllers also. So the main advantage with the ADF applications is like all the existing technologies which are available in the Java technologies which are available in the market, they are part of they are supported through ADF, and ADF works on top of JSF and all the middleware components available. And integration of existing applications or development of new web-based applications through ADF is far easier, and you can complete the given task within less time. So that's the main reason why people are moving to Oracle ADF, and we can develop mobile-based applications also. And similarly, portlets are also possible. Portlet-based web applications are also possible if we go for the Oracle ADF. And integration of SOA through ADF is very easy, and I mean, like, they have few components through which we can do cloud-based computing, or do any SOA components also. So keeping all this in mind, I mean, like, all these components help to gain Oracle ADF more popularity. And in our demo, I mean, like, in Oracle ADF, we'll be discussing the following topics. Like, we'll be starting with Oracle Fusion ADF, history about it, and how MVC came. And one thing here, the prerequisites would be for learning Oracle ADF, we need to learn basic Java programming knowledge as well as any SQL knowledge. These two are mandatory, and it would be good if we have good knowledge about HTML and XML also. It would be good if we have knowledge about them, but Java and SQL knowledge is mandatory here, like how we write Java programs and how we do basic MVC based web-based applications using Java. So those kind of components are needed. Similarly, SQL knowledge is also mandatory, like how to create a table, what's the difference between table and a view. All the details are needed. Other than before we go for ADF. And so here you need to download JDeveloper, and any JDeveloper version higher than 11.1.5.0 would be sufficient, and you can see the extensions here where you can see the plugins of ADF available, the version of JDF available. So we'll be usually developing ADF applications using JDeveloper, which is greater than 11.1.1.5.0. Oracle 11 or 10G would also support ADF applications, not 8G and all these things. We need at least these two things. I mean, like those are compatible, and Java also any version greater than 1.1.6 would be sufficient for us. So these are the things which are needed. And so if you move into the other course content, so first thing will be developing a database diagram. Here we can design our tables using ADF. I mean, like there is a UI framework through which we can design the tables, and we can drag drop the tables, create primary keys and links between the tables using joins and all these things. We can do, and using an ORM tool which is part of ADF called as top link. We will be mapping the ADF components into database, which is primarily Oracle database. So we'll be using in the backend, we'll be using some ORM tools like Toplink, and we'll be connecting our ADF applications to the database. And all the tables will be, I mean, like the tables in the DB as well as our ADF application will be always in sync, because we will always be in sync. Okay, few things we need to know before going for ADF is like few of the components like EO, VO, and AM. In ADF perspective, our DB table is called as EO. EO stands for entity object. Okay, and the same thing for VO. It's the same thing, like whatever is the table in a view in a DB, in the ADF perspective, it's called as a VO. VO stands for view object. EO stands for entity object. VO stands for view object. And whatever the application we design, and it will be shown to the user at the UI part, that is our AM. AM stands for application module. Usually we expose AMs to the end user, and so that he can grab our AMs and he can do whatever business logic he wants. So these are the three components which are needed in the model side. So if you see that, we'll be having an application module package, entity package, and a view package. This is how an application module looks. It contains pointers to a view. In the data model, you can see it contains pointers to a view. And similarly, a view will be containing points to an entity, and similarly entity to the DB table. So that's how the mapping would be done. I mean, I'm showing you just a basic thing. So these are the three common ADF terminologies which we need to know in order to develop any rich UI applications. And purely all ADF applications will be of two parts. We'll be having a model side, and we'll be having a view controller side. Things which happen around the DB will be as part of the model, and all the UI pages, whether it's a web-based or any portal-based or any mobile-based, all these will be part of the view controller. Both in our application will be having two projects, a model project and a view controller project, and both are dependent projects. Sorry. And both are dependent projects. A view controller will always be dependent on model. Similarly, a model will have few things which we need to grab from the from other components also. And this is how a sample ADF applications look. And we will be containing in the model side, we'll be seeing only the AMs, EVOs, and VOs, whereas in the UI side, we'll be seeing our JSF pages and JSP pages, all these things, like a sample page. And there will always be a binding between a view and a view controller and a model project, so that whenever a UI component makes changes into that DB, automatically the model side gets reflected as well as in the DB also. So a sample application, how it looks is like this is how a sample ADF application looks. Here I created three categories like product subcategories, and the products. And whenever we change the electronics, I mean, like the product subcategories get reflected automatically. Office will have hardware, software, and media will have all these things. So this is how a sample at the base, normal basic application ADF looks. It has a rich UI component, and everything here would be drag and drop. I mean, like if you go for UI components, whenever we design UI components, most of the things here would be drag and drops. So that help us easily to develop any web applications, and we can develop a desktop as well as mobile applications also. And we can create also web services as part of using ADF applications. So that's a basic common things about ADF, and we'll be covering all the model side. Like we'll be covering what is ADF business component, testing the model, and we'll be how to create view objects and associations. Associations are usually views are always rely on entities. Entities are nothing but reflections of our database tables. And similarly, like how we use joins between two tables, we'll be using associations in ADF. ADF associations help us to connect two tables. I mean, like if we have primary key foreign key relation, we create an association between these two tables so that we can have one to many or many to one or such kind of relationships. And we'll be creating view objects. View objects usually would be of two types. One is updatable view object. The other one would be read-only view. Using read-only view, we can only query the data, whereas using updatable view, we can update the DB tables also. And we'll be calling the master detail relations. Finally, we'll be creating application modules. Application modules are the only components which would be exposed to the client. And here will be application modules can only contact view objects. And view objects should contact entities. From entities, the DB table would be called. And once you are done with your application module, your model side would be completely done. And then we move to UI layer. UI layer will be having like ADF task flows through which we can maintain a relation between two tables. I mean, two pages. Like whenever user clicks on a submit button, where should the page redirect or what action should be done? So such kind of things we'll be maintaining in ADF task flows. And people who are familiar with JSF, they can easily learn Oracle ADF, because most of the ADF UI components are developed on top of JSF only. So we'll be like JSF, we'll be having Oracle ADF life cycles also, which are mostly related to JSF components. And coming to the data services, like how programmatically we'll be using programmatical means using Java-based programming. We'll be developing entity objects, view objects, and we'll be creating relations and all these things, all such kind of stuff we can do here. And validating user input. This is like creating JavaScript. Using ADF, we can write our own scripting, and we use groovy expressions usually to validate here. Rather than going for JavaScript, we'll be writing some groovy expressions which help us to validate the data before the actual program gets fired. And troubleshooting and understanding the UI components, like how servlets and JSPs work, and JSF components and all these things, explaining how ADF augments the life cycles. Similarly, we'll be creating a JSF page and creating the model layer. And we use a terminology called as data binding. Data bindings help us to bind a UI component to a model layer. So like if you have an application module, you want to bind that application module to some UI page. So we usually would be using data bindings. I'll show you how data bindings would be available. So whenever you have a payments page or some page, go to data controls. Okay. So in the data controls, you'll be seeing all the bindings available. Like these are all the views which are available for me, and to drag and drop. So if you want, I can drag and drop it and create a view or an ADF table or something. depending on the requirement, I can create that. Mostly, it will be automated, and we can create whatever components we want, everything in in a easy fashion. Similarly, creating the user interface, converting task flows. Task flows help us to maintain the relation. I mean, like the link between multiple pages, like how a login page looks, and if the user is a valid user, then which page to relate. If he is an invalid or some user is not authenticated properly, then which page to redirect. All these things will be maintained in our task flows. And conditional navigation, like if a user is providing some credit card details and it has less balance, so how to navigate him to or navigate him to the desired page, or getting approval from some manager. So all such kind of navigations would be happening in the using routers and navigations. And we'll be calling adding functionality like internationalization. Here, all the components we can provide like internationalization also, and we can provide some resources file through which we can provide the values, and based on the language, those fields gets loaded, displaying text and icons, hierarchical data entries. You can create all these are UI components only, like how you create trees and how you populate the tables in a tabular format. All these things, they are basically part of the UI thing. And creating search buttons, forms, and sorting, everything would be possible here. Like whatever we have done in using JSF or any HTML components, everything is possible here. And creating buttons, links, breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs are like we usually have whenever we are submitting a multi-page form. We usually use breadcrumbs, like go to page 1, page 2, page 3. So till the final page, we won't see a submit button. So those are actually breadcrumbs. So we'll be having breadcrumbs, and we'll be navigating between multiple pages. And finally, we'll be having train components also, where we can move to multiple pages and require layouts and designing for reuse. So one thing here is like instead of developing the pages, we'll be just designing components which are needed, and those components would be reused in multiple applications. So reusability is one of the major features which is available using not only using ADF but using JSF. We'll be doing this actually, like how we reuse an existing component from one page to another page. Like such kind of things would be easily done using JSF, but it can be done through ADF also. And we can create some page templates, so that whenever we in the near future, if we are trying to create a new page, so it will follow the page template which is existing for all the existing pages available as of now. So we can create a kind of page template, so that the application will have the same template in the future also. And if we need to change the page template, only the template page would be changed, but not all the pages. And having some page fragments to make some UI parts more interesting. And we'll be calling one more thing would be using PPR. PPR stands for partial page rendering. So what is actually partial page rendering means, like imagine like if a page has multiple forms and multiple submit buttons. So we want to submit only one form, not so that the whole page won't be submitted. Only the form which we have filled and submitted, only that form would be submitted, and the partial page rendering would happen over there only, so that the retrieval time would be faster. So we will be doing such kind of things here using PPR. PPR stands for partial page rendering. And displaying values using UI components, defining the data to reduce the values, and using managed beans. And here we'll be having a few more components called as backing beans, where we'll be maintaining the bean data. If a user has done something, some action on the UI page, like how a backing bean will take such kind of would do some kind of validations or some action. So all these things will be done in the backing bean side. And we'll be having a scope also called as backing bean scope, which is for a particular component. Similarly, we'll be having a page scope, application scope, session scope, request scope, all these things, all the scopes which are available as of now in using standard Java, JSPs and JSFs are possible in ADF also. Similarly, using page parameters, using task flow parameters, all these things we'll be discussing. So most of the things here would be used on the UI side, but before going to UI, we need to stress more on model part because model would be designed only once, and we need to make the model as reliable as possible. Whereas UI is always flexible, and will be most of the time we'll be reusing the existing UI components. So it's always better to concentrate more first on model and then move to view controller. So that entire course content would take almost like some 40 hours. So if you want any more details, you can contact the HR.